Coronavirus Q&A. I'm answering your questions, those burning questions you guys have had. I am going to be answering today. So, let me just do that one more time. Hey there, observers. This is Taiwan Observer, and we are back with another video. Today's video is going to be about all those questions you had for me earlier in the week. You dropped some questions on our Q&A post, and now I'm going to be answering as many of them as I can, as best as I can. The first thing I want to talk about is the rise in cases and give you a little quick update on the news here in Taiwan regarding coronavirus. So let's get right into it. The first one we've got here is the new cases being reported here in Taiwan. We've gone from 339 yesterday. We've added 9 new cases today, which have brought us to 348 cases today. The travel history of those who have contracted the virus were USA, Thailand, Austria, Czech Republic, Denmark, UK, Indonesia, Austria, and the UK's. 2 cases were local. Number 347 actually contracted their virus from number 336. The two met up on 2 separate occasions, and that case number 347 went to see a doctor twice before being admitted to hospital. We've got another case here, a local case where they don't know exactly where this person contracted the virus. It's a woman in her 60s, but we will be checking that out. And they will be investigating and figuring out what happened there. So let's take a look at the CDC's website. So now we've had 34,557 tested, with 30,530 people excluded, and 348 people have been confirmed to have the virus, 5 have died sadly, and 50 have been released. So let's check out what's happening globally. So there are almost 1 million global cases. Some reports are saying there are already more than 1 million cases, but the Taiwanese CDC has not updated that to over 1 million cases yet. There have been 51,000 deaths, 51,215, and a casualty rate of 5.17. And 181 countries are now reporting that they have gotten cases, official cases of the coronavirus. So let's take a look at some of your burning questions here. The first question I'm going to be talking about today is: was the virus a bioweapon, or did it escape from a lab in Wuhan? This is a question I've been seeing floating around all over the place, and I must admit, when it first started, when I first heard about the virology lab there in Wuhan, I thought to myself, ooh, this could possibly be an escaped virus that has escaped from that lab and has infected people outside. But as you will see, as we will learn, as I will show you, this most likely is not the case. So let's go straight into some articles that are showing us about that. So first we're going to talk about Science Daily here. They've got an article talking about the coronavirus here. They call it SARS-CoV-2. So this is a lot of doctors and things, medical professionals have been calling it SARS-2 because it's much like SARS and it presents much like SARS, but it's a little bit different. It's mutated. It's not exactly the same. So we can see here they're saying, by comparing the available genome sequence data for the known coronavirus strains, we can firmly determine that SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, or Wuhan coronavirus, however you'd like to say it, originated through a natural process. So we can tell right now it is a natural process, said Christian Anderson, one of the people who worked on PhD and Associate Professor of Immunology and Microbiology at Scripps Research, and a corresponding author of the paper. So there was a paper written about this in the Journal of Natural Medicine, talking about whether or not this is an escaped virus or a bioweapon of sorts. So scientists analyzed the genetic template for spike proteins. So you've seen SARS has this picture everybody's showing around. It looks just like this. It's, you know what I'm saying? It looks like this. We can see here there's a ball with these little spikes all over the side. So this is apparently what they mean by these spike proteins on the outside of the virus. So spike protein armatures on the outside of the virus that it uses to grab and penetrate the outer walls of human and animal cells. So it uses those little things to grab onto human cells and infect them with the virus. So more specifically, they focused on two important features. So when they were checking this out, they were focusing on two important features: the spike protein, the receptor binding domain, and a kind of grappling hook that grips onto the outer shell, and the cleavage site, a molecular can opener that allows the virus to crack open human cells and enter the host cells and infect them from there. So scientists found that the RBD portion of the SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins had evolved to effectively target a molecular feature on the outside of human cells, the ACE2, a receptor involved in regulating blood pressure. So the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein was so effective at binding to human cells, in fact, that scientists concluded that it was the result of a natural selection and not the product of genetic engineering. So apparently it's so good at attacking human cells that they don't think it could possibly be bioweapon or genetically engineered. The evidence for natural evolution was supported by data of the SARS-CoV-2's backbone, its overall molecular structure. If someone were seeking to engineer a new coronavirus as a pathogen, they would have constructed it from the backbone of a known virus. So this is a different virus. It doesn't look like other viruses. It's not built the same way. So that's how they know this is not exactly from a lab. It's not like something that they've already found and then they've engineered, they've changed it a little bit. No, this is a completely new backbone. It differed substantially from those already known coronaviruses and most resembled related viruses found in bats and pangolins. Yes, okay, so let's move on. These two features of the virus, the mutations in RBD portion of the spike protein and its distinctive backbone, rules out laboratory manipulation as a potential origin of the SARS-CoV-2. Okay, so there we see they've pointed out that it is not like other viruses. So the possible origins, let's talk about the possible origins of this virus. So most likely origin of SARS-CoV-2 followed two scenarios. In one scenario, the virus evolved into a current pathogenic state through natural selection, non-human host, and then jumped to humans. Previous coronavirus outbreaks that have emerged contracting the virus direct exposure to civets and camels, which civets is SARS and camels would be MERS. So because it didn't happen, because they can't be sure which scenario it is, these are the two most likely scenarios. So in another scenario, both of the distinctive features of SARS-CoV-2 spike protein in the RBD portion binds to the cell cleavage site and opens up the virus and opens up the virus would have evolved in their current state prior to entering humans. In this case, the current epidemic would probably have emerged rapidly as soon as humans were infected. So that means one state was people got into contact, it got onto a human host and then developed within the human itself. Second one was it developed in an animal, and then when humans came into contact with that virus, it latched onto their cells quickly, and that's one reason why it could have spread so wide so quickly. So that's from the Science Daily. This article was written by the source of this is the Scripps Research Institute. Okay, so let's take a look here at the Washington Post. Another reason why it could not have come from a lab. Those entering a level 4 lab, so the lab in Wuhan probably didn't release the virus because it's a level 4 lab. So they use airlocks and protective suits. So that means when you go into this lab, it is an airlock. They disinfect you before you go in and after you go out. And you also have to wear a protective suit. It's like a clean room, you know. If you've ever seen in a movie people wearing white suits in a white room doing things, that's what they're talking about. So waste and even air is heavily filtered and cleaned before leaving the facility. So everything is cleaned before leaving the facility. So it's very difficult for a virus to escape from one of those, but it's not completely impossible. So, of course, if there are any bioweaponry, it is covert. So if there's any research on bioweaponry, it's very covert. And one of the reasons why they say this probably didn't happen in the Wuhan lab is because the Wuhan lab is well known and is relatively open compared to other Chinese institutes. So that means they're not super secretive over there. And also, would we even know where a bioweaponry lab is, especially with the CCP, who's pretty good at censoring stuff? Would we even begin to know where this lab is that is located if they were developing a bioweapon there? So it's pretty far-fetched after doing some research myself, because I told you in the beginning of this that I also thought that maybe it could be an escaped virus. But after doing the research myself, I can see that these aren't the only sources I looked at, of course, but these are the ones where I felt that they made the best points. So it is strong ties to Galveston National Laboratory in the University of Texas medical branch, and was developed with aid of French engineers. So the Americans and the French are there too. They also know what's going on here. So it's very unlikely that this Institute of Virology, a world-class facility that does world-class research on virology and immunology, would have this escape at all. So the facility was researching coronaviruses transmitted by bats. So yes, there is some plausibility there, as in I can see why people are going this way with this sort of thing. But after doing the research, it is clear to me, and it should be clear to you, that it wasn't an escape from this lab. It actually came from natural processes and ended up in people. So if you want to look for someone to blame, it is not the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So despite what the CCP would have you believe, that an American army group that came to participate in the military world games could have possibly brought it over to Wuhan when they had the games there in October, this is also not true. So it clearly developed over time within natural processes. So let's move on to the next question we've got here. Bam. Does temperature affect the virus? Is the climate a factor in the spread? So I've heard lots of discussion, seen lots of discussion online about, the virus is going to die down in April. Even the U.S. president has said that, when it gets warmer out, we're going to see this virus calm down a little bit. And and not get so, and maybe even go away as he would hope, but it's not going to actually do that. So we're going to ask the question, is climate a factor in the spread? So let's go look at what we're talking about there. And we've seen a lot of people say, hey, maybe it's just like influenza. In the summer months, it's going to die down when it's hotter outside and less humid out there, or more humid out there. So let's go and check out what this exactly means for us. All right. Next one. Here we go. We're going to move over. Will warm weather really kill off the COVID-19? This is by Richard Gray on BBC Future. So let's see, what do they have to say here? Many of the largest outbreaks in the region where weather is cooler, so this is talking about viral outbreaks, leading to have been in regions that were cooler. So right now, a lot of cooler regions, especially China, it's cold. Right now it's in winter, and in some of the cooler regions there, we've seen large outbreaks, especially in Europe and stuff like that, leading to speculation that the disease might begin to tail off with the arrival of summer. So a lot of people have said this. Many experts, however, have already cautioned against banking too much on the virus die down over the summer. And they are right to be cautious. The virus that caused COVID-19, which has officially been named SARS-CoV-2, is new to the is too new to have any firm data. So nobody's really sure because of how new this virus is at the moment. And they don't know whether or not the seasons will change it. It's closely related to the SARS virus spread in 2013, which was contained quickly, meaning that there will be little information about how it is affected by seasons. So SARS in 2003 was contained pretty quickly. It wasn't such a huge outbreak, but it did affect Taiwan, where I am currently at, pretty hard. So that is one of the reasons why Taiwan has had such a great response to this, because they learned from a previous outbreak, previous epidemic in the country. So a study conducted 10 years ago by Kate Templeton from the Centre of Infectious Disease at the University of Edinburgh, UK, found that 3 coronaviruses, all obtained from patients with respiratory tract infections in hospitals, showed that winter marked seasonality. The viruses seem to cause infections mainly between December and April, a similar pattern with influenza. A 4th coronavirus, which was mainly found in patients with reduced immune systems, was more sporadic. So because this coronavirus that we're experiencing right now, COVID-19, is targeting people with weak immune system, mainly the elderly and immunocompromised people, this means that we could have a completely different scenario from regular influenza and stuff like that. So an unpublished analysis comparing 500 locations around the world where there have been COVID-19 cases seem to suggest a link between spread, virus, and temperature, wind speed, and relative humidity. Yes, so colder places and places with lower humidity have been shown that it could spread more rapidly around there. So other unpublished study also shows that higher temperatures are linked to lower incidence of COVID-19. So yes, so when temperature gets higher, it seems that there's less chance for you to get COVID-19. That might explain why some countries in Southern Hemisphere have not been as badly affected as Northern Hemisphere countries. So the research shows that SARS-CoV-2 can survive for 72 hours on hard surfaces like plastic and stainless steel. Moving on from climate in general, we're going to talk about surfaces. That's how most people are contracting this disease. When you're talking, you're spitting, there's little particles flying through the air that other people breathe in or touch, and then touch their face, and then that's how they get the virus, right? So it can last for up to 72 hours on hard plastic surfaces, stainless steel, at temperatures between 21 and 23 Celsius, and in relative humidity of 40%. Exactly how COVID-19 virus behaves at other temperatures and humidity has still to be tested, but research on the coronavirus suggests that it can survive for 28 days at 4 degrees Celsius. So let's go and check out some of the research here relating to how it spreads on surfaces. A single cough can produce up to 3,000 droplets. So if you're going, that's 3,000 potential droplets flying around in the air. Maybe some of you have seen there's a Japanese researchers did a study, and they found that when someone coughs, they showed through a video that it spreads really far, the droplets. But when you have a mask on and you cough, the droplets basically just around your head. So that's why wearing a mask is so important, especially in Asian countries where it's so highly densely populated, right? So let's take a look here. We got 3,000 droplets potential. These particles can land on people, clothing, and surfaces around them, but some smaller particles can remain in the air. So when you're coughing, the small or tiny little particles can remain in the air, and that's how you can get it through breathing. Right? So that's why wearing a mask is also good, especially if you're on public transport, and that's why Taiwan has recently said you need to be wearing a mask if you want to be on public transport. That's at least for Taipei and New Taipei so far, but this could change, could be a thing that's happening all over Taiwan very soon. Also, intercity buses and trains have implemented that you have to be wearing a mask to be able to get on the train or bus. And this is because of these 3,000 droplets produced when you cough. So here we go. Some studies on the coronaviruses include SARS and MERS found that they can survive on metal, glass, and plastic for as long as 9 days unless properly disinfected. So that's why it's so important to disinfect everything. Some can even hang around for up to 28 days in low temperatures. There are studies which have been published in New England Journal of Medicine shows that the virus could survive in droplets for 3 hours after being coughed into the air. So just in the air it could float around for up to 3 hours. Okay, NHI, National Institutes of Health, this is in the UK, study found that SARS-CoV-2 virus survives for longer on cardboard, up to 24 hours, and the plastic stainless steel surfaces. And on plastic and stainless steel surfaces. The findings suggest that the virus might last long on door handles, plastic-coated or laminated worktops, and hard surfaces. And the research did find, however, that copper surfaces kill the virus in about 4 hours. That's why you can see Taiwan, actually, some of the public buildings here have started to put copper handles or copper sheeting on the outside of door handles and stuff like that. But there is a speedier option to kill coronaviruses, which can be eradicated within a minute by disinfecting surfaces with 62 to 71% alcohol. Most alcohol solutions in Taiwan are 75%, and most hand sanitizers are also 75% or more. So that means within less than a minute you can kill this virus. All right, or 0.5% hydrogen peroxide bleach, okay, or 0.5% sodium hydrochlorate. So there's many ways to kill this virus, not just letting it die on its own, but you can disinfect. You can use disinfectants pretty effectively, so use disinfectants when you can. All right, next one we're going to look at is what will be the aftermath? What does life and the economy look like in the future, friends? Well, we're going to take a look at what exactly does life in the economy look like. Personally, I don't see us recovering from this anytime soon. But let's check out the aftermath. These are all, by the way, these are all questions that I have received on our Facebook page. These are the questions we got from contributors, so follow our page. Next time I'm doing a video, I'll probably put up another Q&A saying, hey, do you want to ask me some questions about the coronavirus? We might do another video like this again soon, so if there's something I didn't answer for you, maybe leave it in the comments right now and I can get to it later, or leave it on the next post that we put up. If you're not watching it live, if you're watching a rerun here. Anyway, let's go and check that out. So how does it look after the fact? So here we're going to start out with the economy. A look at economies in the market aftermath. So this is a Bloomberg article here. It says that the first thing we're going to be talking about is the drift away from foreign trade globalization towards protectionism that started when China entered the World Trade Organization in 2001 will accelerate. So there's been a lot of people talking about, oh, globalization is hurting all our economies. It's making people and it's hurting economies around the world because they can, if a business wants something done cheaper, they can just get it done somewhere else for way cheaper than they can in their home country. So that's been losing jobs and stuff. So this is saying that over time that this protectionism could accelerate because of this COVID-19 epidemic. It could make suppliers want to be self-sufficient and have their supply chains be somewhere where they can actually be in close contact with their suppliers. So it might bring a lot of manufacturing home. So businesses and education shuts down due to the virus, reveal the waste of much pointless business travel and classroom time. Face-to-face interactions won't disappear, but instead will be reduced. So I agree with this. I think that a lot of businesses were stuck in the old ways of doing business, and now that they can see that it's actually pretty darn easy, it's not that difficult to get your staff online and to become more remote. You know, it lowers rent and stuff because then you're able to do remote work more efficiently. And now a lot of companies have been forced into learning how to use remote software like Zoom and Microsoft Teams or Adobe Connect. So these softwares are forcing people to work. This virus is forcing people to work from home, and now people are being forced to learn how to use these softwares. And I think that going forward, we'll see a lot more adoption of these digital online softwares. So fiscal stimulus will be magnified as monetary policy proves impotent, okay, beyond recession induced by unemployment relief and income supplements. Major infrastructure spending will be likely. So because people are now seeing that we cannot save ourselves from these sorts of incidents, we need better infrastructure, and that just having monetary policy, lower the interest rates when the markets are doing bad. No, you need to invest in infrastructure. Make sure your infrastructure is strong. Make sure you're continuously investing in better infrastructure, not relying on other governments and other countries around the world to have that infrastructure when you need it, so you can just go and buy the products you want when you need them. Okay, barring all out protectionisms, global supply will continue to exceed world demand, thus resulting saving glut will depress inflation and interest rates. So because people will have so much in savings and stuff like that. I know that I'm not spending a lot of money because I'm staying at home, social distancing myself, but I'm still working, so I'm still getting paid for that. I'm not spending as much money though, so my savings are going up, and that's not a bad thing in my opinion. So let's see. This could even possibly lead to deflation. We could even see deflation in these times because of this coronavirus epidemic here. This is what's going to happen to the economy now. Me personally, I think that this is definitely something that's true. We are definitely going to see a lot more companies coming home, trying to build supply chains within their own countries because they realize how vulnerable their supply chains are, especially those countries doing mass amounts of business with China, and especially when it comes to pharmaceuticals. Because if you look at America, most of their pharmaceuticals are actually manufactured in China, and that is ridiculous because when a pandemic does happen, then China has the control of the American pharmaceutical market, and if they say, no, we need these drugs more than you need these drugs, they could potentially keep those drugs for themselves, and that could be terrible for the local population in any country. And then we can see through mask production. When we look at Taiwan, there was 90% of Taiwan's masks were coming from China, and then suddenly they stopped sending masks to Taiwan because they said, no, we need to keep the masks for ourselves. So then Taiwan needed to go and up the production of masks here. So we went from about 4 million daily masks being produced to now close to 13 million masks being produced daily in Taiwan. And that's because the government saw that they were not going to be able to just keep purchasing masks from China and decided, hey, you know what, we need to up our local abilities to manufacture masks. And so they did. They're also upping the ability to manufacture lots of medical equipment here in Taiwan, especially rapid test kits for coronavirus. There's the National Health Research Institute, if I'm not wrong, has developed a 15-minute kit, and they're going to be testing that kit, and then they're going to be testing mass production of that kit very soon. Starting next week, they're getting into talks about that. So let's move on to other parts. We've got here another article from BBC Future. One of the points they've made here is that pointless jobs will be cut. There are a lot of pointless jobs out there, and now because of this, a lot of these pointless jobs will just be cut completely or partly. And the fact that we have so many people who work pointless jobs is partly why we are so ill prepared for the response to COVID-19. The pandemic is highlighting that many jobs are not essential, and we lack sufficient key workers to respond when things go bad. So there are certain key workers we need that we are in a lack of, and a lot of pointless jobs we don't need, that all those people are now seeing their livelihoods in jeopardy. So we know that unemployment in America is at an all-time high. In Taiwan, we've seen our employment grow to 3.7% because of this. And I'm sure that will continue to grow in coming months. So likewise, we are seeing a breakdown of labor markets. Countries like Denmark and the UK are providing people with income in order to stop them from going to work. This is essential. In Taiwan, too, if you are quarantined, the government is paying you to stay home, to stay in quarantine, so you don't have to go to work, right? They're paying you. It might be close to minimum wage, but they are paying you to stay home. This is an essential part of a successful lockdown. Yes, that is, or any successful measures. You need to pay people to stay home. These measures are far from perfect. Nonetheless, the shift from this principle that people have to work in order to earn their income, a move towards the idea that people deserve to live even if they cannot work. So we've seen people like Andrew Yang in America running for president. He's talking about universal basic income. A lot of countries in Europe are also toying with the idea, doing research on universal basic income. What does this mean? It means, well, we don't need to work to earn our money, work. No, instead, we might be able to get a basic income, a living wage, and then on top of that, we can work for the things we want or need extra in our lives. And I think that any step towards this is better for all of us. But that's my personal opinion. I think that universal basic income is something that the whole world needs to work towards, especially with the automation of industry at the moment. If we can see there's a lot of automation, a lot of things are going out of the jobs are being taken out of the job markets, like self-driving cars will probably put an end to taxis, and self-driving trucks will put an end to truck drivers and things like that. It won't get rid of them completely, but it will definitely lower the amount of those workers that we do need. So people will have to find new types of jobs to do, and there might not be enough jobs for everybody. So universal basic income helps to smooth over those issues. Let's look at another over here, Politico. Now we're going to get into the political aspect of things. So there's going to be a lot of political change and societal change, in my opinion. So a global novel virus keeps us contained in our homes, maybe for months. This is already reiterating our relationship to the government and the outside world, and even to each other. So Politico's got a good point here. But crisis moments also present opportunity. Yes, there's lots of opportunity. I agree with this statement. More sophisticated and flexible use of technology, as I talked about earlier. It's forcing businesses to learn how to use technology to their advantage and not have workers at home, at work all the time, maybe even work remotely sometimes. With less polarization and a revived appreciation of the outdoors and life's simple pleasures. Yes, I can see how being locked down for months at a time would reinvigorate you to be out in nature and maybe even care about the climate a little bit more. Here, the comfort of being in the presence of others might be replaced by a greater comfort with absence, especially with those you don't know intimately. So maybe, is there even a reason to do this? Instead of asking, is there a reason to do this online, we could be asking, is there a good reason to be doing this in person at all? I can already see that in Asian countries where we are very adapt with technology and people are very comfortable with using it. Instead, we'd rather just do things online than go out, right? So unfortunately, if unintendedly, those without easy access to broadband will be further disadvantaged. So is the online paradox, right? So if you don't have internet, it might make you even less likely to be able to join the workforce, or might make you even less likely to be able to get yourself out of a terrible or less than optimal economic situation. COVID-19 has already forced people back to accepting that expertise matters. Yes, for so long. Look at this. I'm going to show you here. That expertise matters. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how else to say this, but for so long, people have just completely forgotten that experts are experts for a damn reason. Come on, guys. What are you doing? Stop with these conspiracy theories. Yeah, we have open access to information, but experts know what they're talking about. They've been trained in what they know, and they are medical professionals or professionals in their field for a damn reason, my friends. So listen to the experts. There are too many idiots out there saying, no, a mask doesn't work. A mask does work, okay? There's too many idiots out there. Oh, I'm young, I'm not going to get it. No, medical professionals have told you even if you are young, you could get the virus. You might beat the virus. You might not die from the virus, but it could leave you scarred for the rest of your life. Your lungs could be scarred and less than optimum function because of this. So when they say stay at home, stay at home. You need to not be selfish. Do your duty. Stay at home. Social distance from others. Okay? Next one. When we look at America, professionals like Anthony Fauci. Mr. Fauci is the guy who's been on the news recently. He's the head of the infectious disease and allergy center there in America. I'm not sure what the name is, but he is the head of it. And he is going out there telling people things, and then the next day the president says something else. This is just ridiculous. At least in Taiwan, our vice president was the health minister during the SARS epidemic, and now he is the vice president. He is a trained epidemiologist, and because we have medical professionals as heads of state here in Taiwan, we know for a fact that we are doing better than others for the reason that we took it so seriously so early. Because the vice president said when he first heard about Wuhan coronavirus, he said, "Oh my God, this is SARS come back, right? It's come back to life." So second, it may one might hope return Americans or the whole world to a new seriousness, or at least move them forward in the idea that government is a matter for serious people. Yes, and there's, of course, in America, you see there are less than serious people. In the White House right now, a reality TV star got elected America's president. I mean, come on, guys. And there are more people like that all around the world. Okay, the coronavirus pandemic marks the end of romance with the market society, and hyper-individualism. Yes, thank goodness. We can see that sticking together is the way that we work together, and we can pull through this whole ordeal. We are now seeing that market-based models for social organization failed catastrophically, as self-seeking behavior makes this crisis more dangerous than it needs to be. When this marks the end, when this ends, we will reorient our politics and make substantial new investment in public goods, especially for health and other public services. Yes, it shows us that we need strong healthcare around the world. We need to have good public infrastructure. Look at Taiwan. The healthcare system is probably the best healthcare system in the world, depending on who you ask. But because our healthcare system is so strong, because we take these epidemics so seriously here, we've only seen 348 cases so far, with only 5 deaths, where other countries are seeing hundreds of thousands of cases. And potential of up to 100,000 deaths in America, or 250,000, they say, could die in America because of this outbreak. COVID-19 will sweep away artificial barriers, removing more of our lives online. Yes, so there's there's many barriers to online currencies, for instance, or online use, like voting online, or being able to go online to make doctor's appointments, or to use big data to make decisions with. So because there are so many artificial barriers made by regulation, now we might be able to lower those barriers and bring overcautious bureaucrats, as they stay here, into the fold with the rest of us. So perhaps it's time for our devices to rethink the kinds of community we can create with them. So yes, we've seen now, it used to be like, oh, social media is different from our lives, but maybe we can integrate it in a better way, like cello master Yo-Yo Ma. Instead of only doing live performances, now he's going on doing daily live concerts with songs that sustain him on internet so people can watch. We've seen Broadway diva Laura Benanti invites performers from high school plays to do their shows and send her their performances so she can watch them. Lin-Manuel Miranda says he will also join that. So there are people around the world who are trying to use this as an opportunity to change the way we do things in society. The truth is, the last point here, the truth is most popular emissary science. Have been declining in credibility for more than a generation. So we've seen people take scientists and science less and less seriously over the years, and there's like all this climate denial stuff, and this is mostly a lot to do with cultures around the world. Some cultures take things more seriously than others, but we can see that there's a lot of political facts that are just swept under the rug because people don't agree with them, or there's a lot of facts in the world that don't agree with certain business models, so they try and get rid of them. But I think this will have people realize that, yes, sometimes scientists are actually trying to help us out, and that we shouldn't be thinking they're all just a bunch of nerds and that we know more than them. No. Expertise matters, and experts know what they're talking about. Let's get into the next question we've got here. When will it end? This is a big question I've seen a few times. When will it end? Well, friends, there is sort of an answer to that, but there isn't really an answer to that at all. We can take a look at what scientists are saying about what the life of this virus can be. We can see when lockdowns may end, when vaccines may be discovered or may be implemented, and also when economies may come back from the dead. So let's take a look here and see what that is about. Okay, coronavirus. When will the outbreak and life get back to normal? Well, in the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said in the UK can turn the tide against the outbreak in 12 weeks. In the next 12 weeks, the country can send coronavirus packing. Okay, well, that's Mr. Johnson's opinion on this, but lots of countries like America has just extended their social distancing guidelines and lockdowns until the end of April. It could take quite a while for this to happen. Some countries are pushing their lockdowns until June, perhaps, but it can take a long time to turn the tide, possibly years. So guys, we might be stuck in this situation for years on end, not just a little while, as some might have us believe. Certainly the president of the US would like you to believe that it could be over in just a few weeks, but it might not be over for years. So let's talk about vaccinations and enough people developing immunity through herd infection. So vaccines could take at least 12 to 18 months. They're at least 12 to 18 months away. So 12 months because they've already found some vaccines that may be useful in the fight against coronavirus, but it takes at least 12 months to run the clinical trials for these vaccines. And yes, they are speeding it up, and this is way faster than we've ever come up with vaccines or potential vaccines than we ever have before. It took just weeks to sequence the genomes. It took just weeks for people to start figuring out what vaccines could possibly be working. And other medications too. We're only now trying certain medications and trying to use those on we're only doing clinical trials now on things like chloroquine and stuff like that. So we're going to move on from there, and let's see. Natural immunity at least 2 years away. So if you think, oh, we're going to be we're all going to get sick and we're going to have a natural immunity to this thing before we develop a vaccine. That does not seem to be the case. It's at least 2 years away. It could take a long time for people to get sick and recover from this, and that will put huge strain on medical services all around the world, not just in hard-hit countries. So here we go. Some coronavirus tips. Wash your hands. Use tissues when you cough or cough into your elbow, and try not to touch your face. We're going to go to the next point we've got here. Why did Taiwan stop all the flights? Why did Taiwan stop all the flights? Well, it was an easy answer. I don't even need to look this one up, guys. I know that Taiwan stopped flights for a very specific reason. They wanted to protect the local population. And since most of our cases are imported from overseas, this is just a logical step. So first, Taiwan stopped all the flights. First, Taiwan stopped all the flights because, well, we didn't want more infected people coming to Taiwan, okay? And not all the flights have stopped into Taiwan, but we have stopped transiting passengers, and passengers who are not citizens or residents are not allowed into Taiwan. Why did Taiwan do this? Well, Taiwan doesn't want its local population infected, since local spread is very low, and if we allow more people into Taiwan, an unchecked amount of people here, then we will definitely see more people get infected with the coronavirus. So I'm happy that Taiwan closed its borders, and I know many of you viewers out there are also happy that Taiwan closed its borders, and I believe that Taiwan needs to keep its borders closed until we can see a major drop in the amount of infected people around the world. And unfortunately, because America and some European countries are just getting started, and also South Africa, African nations, and also some Southeast Asian nations are just getting started with people being infected, we are going to see this ban last quite a while. Maybe some countries will be allowed, residents from some countries will be allowed to visit Taiwan in the near future, but you can expect that to last for a while. Also, in Taiwan, travel, you're not allowed to travel. If you do leave the country now, you won't be getting your subsidy when you come back. You'll have to stay in quarantine. Also, students and teachers are not allowed to leave the country because those are huge hotspots. Schools can easily transmit this disease amongst its pupils and stuff like that. So, and transiting passengers are not allowed here. They're not allowed to come and stop over in Taiwan and go to another country from there, because you could infect airport workers who then infect people in their homes, and then leads to community spread. So why did Taiwan do this? Well, to protect the local population, and because most of our cases are imported. Something like 50 are local cases, and 298 are imported cases. And Taiwan's doing a pretty good job at keeping coronavirus at bay. Here, another thing. Benefits to joining the WHO. This is a question that I asked myself as well. What does joining the WHO actually mean for Taiwan? What does it mean for us here in Taiwan if we are joining the WHO, the World Health Organization? Well, does it mean that Taiwan's suddenly going to have a better health system here? No. In fact, I believe that joining the WHO does not exactly help Taiwan that much, because as you can see from the statistics, Taiwan is the least affected, and by a model done by Johns Hopkins University, we should have been the second most affected country in the world. But we are not. We are still one of the least affected countries in the entire world, because we took early actions. We didn't listen to the WHO. We did not listen to the Chinese Communist Party, and we did our own thing very early on, very we took heavy-handed actions as soon as we saw the signs of an epidemic forming. So, the world can benefit. This is my point. The world can benefit from Taiwan's WHO participation. Not so much Taiwan is going to be benefiting, but instead the world will be benefiting from Taiwan being part of the WHO. Taiwan has the best healthcare system in the world according to 2019 edition of the CEO World Magazine Care Index. So, Taiwan's single-payer compulsory health insurance system and novel electronic health record system awe and wow health experts and officials from around the world who visit Taiwan. So when health experts come here, they look at our system and they go, holy crap, why do we not have this system? Why are we not implementing the same things? So by joining the WHO, Taiwan can help share the expertise. How did we do this? How did we build such a great healthcare system here in Taiwan? Well, if we were part of the WHO, we would be able to more easily and in a more widespread scale would be able to give this information out to the world. So one of the things that would have benefited the world is when Taiwan sent early warnings about the Wuhan coronavirus to the WHO, they sort of ignored us. They didn't really send out the information to the rest of the people, the rest of the member nations of the WHO, and Taiwan was kind of banking on the fact that they would send the information over to the WHO, and the WHO would then spread it among their constituents or their organization members, but that didn't happen. So if Taiwan had been able to be in the WHO, you may have seen a lot less people get sick because they would have been able to give the information freely to other countries and on a much more mass scale. And maybe other countries may have taken it more seriously because it's a WHO member. So they would have been like, okay, let's look at this information and let's talk about the information on the World Health Organization. And then maybe if it is a real concern, we could give that information and issue guidelines to the rest of the world. First, not being a WHO member means Taiwan is not informed on the latest outbreak information in the WHO through WHO's Public Health Emergency International Concerns System. This puts both Taiwan and the world at risk when information is not exchanged in speed and accuracy in the WHO's available channels. It is also an infringement of Taiwan's health rights. Yes, so not only is Taiwan able to help the world, but it is an infringement on our damn rights. Don't tell me that we don't have a right to the same information everybody else does. Let us be part of the WHO so that we can get that information and we can use our expertise here in the country to be able to interpret that information and give best practices and guidelines to the rest of the world that we think might help them. Second, Taiwan would be a tremendous contributor to the international health community, not only because Taiwan gained experience during the 2002-2003 SARS outbreak, but also because it is a leader in influenza prevention and is located next door to mainland China. Taiwan can be a first responder to China's emergency needs, though it also suffers from China's failures. So because Taiwan knows that they will be the first to suffer when China fails because of something, that's why we took such a heavy-handed approach to this virus starting on December 31st already. So, again, it's not only but there are some benefits. There are some benefits for Taiwan. One of the benefits that I think would be great for Taiwan is a political benefit. It's going to benefit Taiwan hugely politically if we are able to be on an international community like that, on a stage that is as big as the World Health Organization, and we can continually put our influence out there. If Taiwan is able to do that, Taiwan will be getting massive amounts of exposure, and countries and leaders around the world will see Taiwan for what it is, a competent nation, a competent, independent nation, a nation of people that and experts that can help the world. That's why Taiwan has got this Taiwan Can Help campaign going on, because Taiwan can help. And if you think Taiwan can't help, well, then I don't want to have a conversation with you at all, because it's clear through this whole pandemic situation that Taiwan is a leader when it comes to medical expertise. And not only will it help us politically, but it will help us in the way that society will be able, the people here in Taiwan, it'll help us, our society out, because then we will know that there are international organizations out there that do see Taiwan as a independent source of information and not just a part of the PRC, you know, the People's Republic of China. So that is, political benefits to us would be huge, okay? And it would also help Taiwanese people with their identity as Taiwanese, you know, it would help strengthen that identity, and I think that that is a crucial thing moving forward. Anyway, let's move on to the next question we've got here. What about the elderly and children? What are we doing to protect the vulnerable groups? So we had this question from somebody asking, what about elderly people in Taiwan? What about the vulnerable groups here in Taiwan? What are we doing to protect them? Well, there are a lot of things we are doing to protect the elderly and vulnerable here in Taiwan. One thing we are doing to protect especially children in Taiwan is the fact that the elderly and children get priority in the mask system. So old people and children, they get priority in a mask system, in a mask rationing system. Right now we're rationing masks because we produce 13 million a day and there are 23 million people, and everybody wants to have a mask all the time. So right now we're still on a rationing system. That we will be getting rationed more masks starting April 9th, if I'm not mistaken. So we can see that there is potential that people will be able to get a lot more, that young people and elderly people are actually getting more assistance from the government when it comes to these things. So because of the mask rationing system, if you go e-online, if you use your health card, they see that you're an elderly person and they can send you your mask as a priority rather than somebody who's like my age, okay? And then children as well, they get 5 masks versus 3 masks a week right now, as compared to adults get 3, children get 5, because it's mandatory for these kids to be wearing masks in schools, right? And we can see here, we can take a look at another thing. When governments are looking, local governments are looking out for the elderly population, we can see that through an example here in southern Taiwan. A southern Taiwan township moves to protect aging population from the virus. So because they have a large elderly population and only one health clinic in their town, and they are a tourist destination, they are limiting the amount of people to 300 people a day who can come into that town and are able to visit this park in the town, the Raiku tribal culture. So there's Rukai in the Hayo River Valley, okay? And there are cherry blossoms there from February through March, and in April they're capping it at 300 people a day, and they're saying that this is working, okay? So according to CNA, elderly people account for a large portion of this population, right? And there is only one health clinic in the township. So the residents who fall seriously ill have to go to Pingdong City. So to avoid people from getting seriously ill, this is just an example of the things that they're doing, but they're stopping many people from coming into the town. More than 300 people a day, not allowed. So the township announcement states that visitors who enter Wuhan from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. during the period of April 1st to 20th must have their temperature checked at the Sanda checkpoint and Sandiman township. So if you're going there, you're not allowed in. They're going to check you. There's only one highway in and out there. There's one main road going in and out there. So they can easily stop people and check with one of those temperature guns and make sure that you have a temperature of lower than 35 degrees Celsius. And and if you have more than 37 degrees Celsius, there goes 37.5 degrees Celsius temperature. They're going to bar you from entry into the town. So that means if you were planning on going there but you have a fever, that is a no-go. That is a no-go for you. So another thing that we can talk about is that the fact that they have exclusion for children. They are set at schools. They have temperature checks every day, so they can check every student. If students are getting a fever or something like that, or they develop a cough, they get sent home. They can't come in. And if they do have coronavirus, just 2 students in a school means the whole school gets shut down. 1 student in a class, that class is shut down for 14 days minimum. And then 2 students in the whole school get it, the whole school is shut down. So those are some of the regulations in place at the moment. There are also exclusions. So if you are not a student at the school, you are not allowed to enter the premises of the school anymore. That is happening as well. A lot of schools, I have first-hand knowledge of this. My mom works at DIS, a Dominican International School, and they have this exclusion point as well. You can't come into the school if you are no longer allowed into the school if you are not a student there, or you don't have some sort of special permissions. And this is a regulation that has been implemented at lots of schools. Other schools have decided, okay, to save children from this virus, and because we might be a high-risk school, they have shut down school early for spring break and stuff like that. It's particularly TAS and DIS. They have shut down their school early for spring break because they thought, okay, well, if we're going to have spring break anyway, may as well shut down early and extend spring break by a week to stop people gathering in places. And they felt that they were a high-risk school because they're an international school and there's people traveling all the time within their school. So here, the government also tracks high-risk patients through the health card. So if you're visiting the hospital or something and you are considered a high-risk patient, the doctor will then send you down to go get checked out by other professionals. So they are also restricting, like I said, movement into towns with high-risk populations. So next one, we're going to carry on here. That's it for the questions that I was asked. These are all the questions that I was asked in our post about questions and answers. So if you have any more questions, ask them now. So I'm going to go through the questions that I've been asked so far, and I'm going to check out what you guys have said. So, is hantavirus going to spread likewise the coronavirus? Jax Villamac, no. Actually, the hantavirus, because of the way the hantavirus works, is very different from the coronavirus. So the coronavirus spreads because human-to-human transmission. So the hantavirus is very different. It spreads from rats to people. And if you are not in contact with a rat, maybe you're not in contact with rat droppings, or you're not in contact with an infected rat, you most likely won't get that virus. So they had a case of a man in China who got a hantavirus and died on a bus. They checked all the people on the bus, and those people didn't seem to develop symptoms or have anything adverse happen to them because of the hantavirus. So it isn't very easily transmitted human to human, and most of the time it's transmitted from rats to people. So you have to actually come into contact with rat saliva or rat feces. So that's easy to keep yourself away from, right? Just don't go near rats. And the easiest way to control hantavirus is to actually control the rat population. So if anything does happen with that, they're probably just going to go and kill all the rats, and then, or as many rats as they can, and control that population, and then we won't have that issue. Another question here. Yes, someone responded to you already. The answer is no. Here we've got another one. Wuhan pneumonia spread through air droplets. That's right. Okay. The WHO is pro-China. There will be no benefit for Taiwan. So Michael von Karzer, yes, the WHO seems to be a pro-China organization. We've actually seen Tucker Carlson, a Fox News host, actually say, why is the WHO leaning politically towards China when America is the biggest donor to the WHO at $58 million a year? Well, that is a good question. Why is the WHO suppressing Taiwan's information that's coming into it? Because why is it? Because we are not willing to accept that we are part of the PRC. What is this? What is the political ends there? We can even see that there is a WHO official, Mr. Aylward, and Mr. Aylward, what happened to Dr. Aylward was he was in a conference. You may have seen this. He was in a conference call with a RTHK reporter in Hong Kong, and then when she asked about Taiwan, he pretended to not hear the question and asked for another question, and then when she pressed him again, he appeared to hang up. And then when she called him back to ask him again about this, Dr. Aylward then said, "We've already spoken about China, let's have another question." And thank you and then actually he tried to end the interview right there. So after that incident, we can see that a lot of people are making jokes around the internet calling it the Chinese Health Organization and not actually the World Health Organization. So the World Health Organization did respond and say that they are working closely with Taiwanese health experts to learn more about how they were able to contain the spread, and they also said that they will be looking into ways that Taiwan can be supported and support the WHO. So there's a little silver lining from that, but I think that member nations of the WHO will have to, as they said in their email, that the member nations of the WHO will actually have to vote on whether or not they want Taiwan in the WHO. But because China has got everybody by the balls economically, I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. Let's see, any other questions we've got here? Any other questions? Okay. We have exposure now. We are helping Australia and others. Yes, Taiwan has gotten a lot of exposure recently because of this, and good exposure, showing people that yes, Taiwan can help. Taiwan is there. We're sending 10 million masks to the world. And soon we'll be able to up our daily mask production from 13 million to 15 million, and hopefully even 16 or 17 million in a couple of weeks' time. Then when we are able to do that, then you will see that more nations will notice that Taiwan's doing a great job. And because of this coronavirus pandemic, I think that China is going to have a difficult time convincing people that it is trustworthy, because Taiwan was telling people, warning them, hey, there could be human-to-human transmission way earlier than China was saying that there was human-to-human transmission. And then Taiwan is now giving aid to countries like Palau, who nobody else will help for some reason. Only Taiwan. Taiwan's the only country who's helping them at the moment. They are a small nation and one of our few diplomatic allies. So hopefully Taiwan can continue with its Taiwan Can Help campaign. And I hope that Taiwanese people and people in Taiwan understand that giving 1 day or 2 days worth of masks to other countries for that sweet exposure politically helps us more than hurts us in the long run, especially since a lot of people don't seem to be that phased with social distancing. I know it's a long weekend, but guys, please stay home. I'm trying to stay home as much as I can this weekend. I'm not going anywhere. I've been at home for the last 2 days. I've been researching these questions you've been sending me, and this is why we're doing the coronavirus Q&A tonight. Anyway, if there are no more questions, I'm going to check one more time here. If there are no more questions, then I guess I've been going on long enough. So let me check if there are any comments, any questions we are receiving here at the moment. No, I guess you guys have gotten all your answers that you need. So if you weren't able to watch everything here tonight, whoa, let's see here. What if the PLA move is in and takes over Jinmen Island in the middle of the pandemic? Well, they have been bullying Taiwan, and they have been very aggressive even during this pandemic, I guess, because the whole world is focused on this pandemic and nobody's really focusing on little political squabbles as the rest of the world would see it. To us, it's a huge deal, but to them, to the rest of the world, they're preoccupied with their own coronavirus issues in their countries, so nobody's really paying attention to what China's doing in Taiwan. In the Taiwan Strait at the moment, flying planes around Taiwan, intimidating Taiwan with all sorts of military exercises and stuff on our border. If they move in and they take Jinmen, I guess that's the beginning of a war, isn't it? Some say that Taiwan isn't ready for a war with China, but Taiwan has been ramping up asymmetric defense protocols here, and I think that Taiwan stands a much better chance than a lot of people think when it comes to holding off the PLA. I think that there could be, personally in my opinion, I think that the people who say that Taiwan is going to get invaded real quick and we're going to be taken over within a few hours, they're wrong. They're just flat out wrong. Taiwan can in a minute, in an instant, turn their industry into making weapons. Taiwan has developed their own missiles. They've developed their own drones and things that we're selling to the rest of the world. And they can be weaponized very easily. They've developed underwater drones. They're developing their own trains. They're developing their own submarines. They have recently upgraded their own missiles to be able to reach Beijing far more easily. So if the PLA does come and try and take over Taiwan at this time, I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening and possibly could start World War III, because they're right now in a huge conflict with America, and America has recently signed the Taipei Act and the Taiwan Travel Act and the Taiwan and other acts into law that assert America's willingness to help in the situation that we're in, a military situation. And I think that could potentially lead to World War III and a devastating economy. Their economy is already devastated, and I think, but as you see in many authoritarian nations, when an authoritarian nation is threatened, or when an authoritarian nation wants to distract from their ailing economy, from their inability to look after their own people, they do often go after invasion or wartime, so that they can put in wartime measures and they can go ahead and say, look, the economy is doing badly, or things are going badly because we're at war, and it can galvanize their people to listen to them and allow them to to continue their authoritarian rule there. But I have read recently an article, and there is a book about it. And now is the time that China could possibly be headed for democracy, but that seems sketchy to me. Ryan says, is it more likely now than ever before due to the fact that everyone is preoccupied? But our planes here are quite old, F-14A. Well, planes in Taiwan are kind of old, you're right there, but they're well maintained, and a lot of the F-16s are being upgraded as we speak, and a lot of asymmetric defense. So yeah, planes aren't what we need in Taiwan. We need missiles in Taiwan. We need guerrilla fighting tactics, and it's not as flashy as a plane and a tank and a boat, but we need small, nimble, easily transported weapons, things that can make guerrilla tactics more easily executed, things that aren't traditionally like conventional war. Like when I'm talking about unmanned aerial vehicles, Taiwan is one of the few countries in the world that actually sells their drones to other countries. Those can easily be weaponized, and we can easily send the military in there to do manufacturing, like masks. Small companies have not been able to ramp up their mask production if it weren't for the ability for the military to send troops into the factories to go and do the jobs that need to be done, get quickly trained, and then build those things out. It is more likely that while the economy is hurting in China, like I said, authoritarian countries often do this when they feel an existential threat because of their economy and other things like that. It has been seen that they then go and try and start wars with other countries to say, hey, look, we need to galvanize the population. You need to come together to fight this war. And it makes it sort of like an existential thing rather than we are to blame for our own faults, which there are rumors out there that even Xi Jinping could be replaced. The Politburo Committee isn't very happy with the job he's been doing recently, and he could be replaced. But again, that is all speculation, and I'm not one to get into heavy speculation. I'm checking. Alright, checking. Alright, guys. Actually, I think I'm gonna end it there. I don't see any more questions. Don't send me any more questions. I think I'm gonna end this live stream here. I've been talking for almost an hour and 30 minutes. My throat kind of hurts now. Refreshments. And thank you very much for your questions. I'll probably be putting up another Q&A post later asking about more questions that people have about things going on in Taiwan, particularly the coronavirus. You can definitely see me again soon, maybe even tomorrow, with another coronavirus update for you and to talk about more local news that's going on in Taiwan. And maybe on Sunday, if we've got the time, if we've got the ability, we might do a world news segment where we talk about news from all over the world and not just concerning Taiwan, but of course with a Taiwanese perspective on the news. So thank you very much, everybody. This has been Taiwan Observer, and I have been your host, Vincent Lovell. I will see you guys again very soon. Thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate you all. Taiwan Observer, out.